Disaster Management, an introduction to natural disasters. India is a disaster-prone country with its diverse physical features, landforms, different types of rocks, the geological processes, and uncontrolled human activities. It experiences many natural and man-made disasters. In this chapter, we will discuss natural disasters. Natural disaster. A hazard is a natural or man-made event which results in the loss of livelihood, life, and property and damages the environment in a given area. Hazards can be natural or man-made. Earthquakes, volcanic eruptions, landslides, droughts, floods, and cyclones are natural hazards, whereas fire, industrial accidents, nuclear accidents, terror activities, biological disasters, smog, rail or road accidents are man-made hazards. There are some hazards which are caused by both natural and man-made factors. They are termed as socio-natural hazards like fire, soil erosion, global warming, etc. A disaster is a natural or man-made event which results in large-scale damage to life and property, loss of livelihood, environmental damage, or disruptions due to various social and economic activities over a large part of the earth. Different disasters occur in different parts of the earth. Mountainous regions are prone to earthquakes and landslides. Coastal areas are vulnerable to floods and cyclones. Deserts are prone to droughts. River valleys are prone to floods, etc. All hazards do not cause damage. So, it is the preparedness of the people that can reduce the damage caused by the disaster or the impact of a disaster by his knowledge and skill. All the people are not vulnerable to all disasters. Vulnerability refers to the extent the people are affected by a disaster. Generally, the children, the old people, the disabled people, and the poor living in the slums are the most vulnerable. According to the recent studies, India is a multi-hazard prone area. Mainly 55% of the land area is prone to earthquakes, 12% to floods, 8% to cyclones, while 25% of cultivable area is drought prone. Facing disasters. Disasters occur with or without any prior warning. We can manage the disasters in a better way by creating awareness in the people. It is not only the responsibility of the government to manage these disasters, but every citizen has his own role to play to mitigate the various disasters. Students, teachers, and the school authorities have a major role to play in disaster management. Thus, it has been introduced in the curriculum where students are taught about the occurrence of various hazards and the measures to be taken to detect them as well as the safety or mitigation strategies. Disaster management is not the responsibility of the government alone. Today, it is channelized at different levels like central, state, village, district, block level, etc. Besides, there are many non-governmental organizations and various agencies of the United Nations that play an important role during disasters. Most of the disasters are managed by the community people living in an area who are known as the first responders as they are the first one to help. They act as the source of maximum information and self-help in the interest of the people. They use aids and materials. Hence, all disaster management plans should involve the communities, who are the actual participants in all the activities during disasters. The role of students and teachers is also important in disaster management. The students are the active members of the society. They can actively involve themselves in managing various disasters. Teachers are the providers of various information and can guide the students during disasters. Earthquakes. Earthquake refers to sudden vibrations or shaking or displacement of the Earth's crust along the lines of weakness caused by the tectonic forces. The point from where earthquake tremors start is called the seismic focus, while the point on the Earth's crust vertically above the seismic focus where the disturbances occur is called the epicenter. Occurrence. The earthquake occurs when molten magma rises through cracks or joints and displaces the rocks, causing tremors or vibrations. It can also occur along the faults or lines of weakness in areas of volcanic eruption and along the boundaries of tectonic plates. The frequency of earthquakes is recorded by an instrument called the seismograph, while the intensity of an earthquake is measured on the Richter or modified Macaulay scale. Major earthquakes on the earth. A major earthquake occurred on 26 January 2001 in the Bhuj district of Gujarat, affecting 13,805 people and causing thousands of people to become homeless. Another disastrous earthquake occurred on October 5, 2005 in Pakistan, Afghanistan and India. The epicenter of the earthquake was at Muzaffarabad in Pakistan with an intensity of 7.4 m on the Richter scale. As per an estimate, over 70,000 people lost their lives and thousands of people were injured. Besides, many rendered homeless. Property worth several crores of rupees was destroyed. Countless number of animals also died and the environment also got adversely affected. Impact of earthquake. An earthquake of greater magnitude causes deaths and injuries to human beings, destroys buildings and other structures. The extent of damage is related to the time of its occurrence, the type and quality of construction, the raw material used in the construction of buildings, and the intensity of earthquake. Mitigation strategies. Hazard mapping preparation of seismic zones which are prone to earthquakes should be identified so that settlements in these areas can be avoided. Development of building codes and laws and specific designs to make earthquake resilient structures. Awareness and training for engineers, architects and masons towards erecting earthquake resistant structures and construction materials. The new buildings should be constructed strictly according to the building bylaws made by the Bureau of Indian Standards. Existing buildings can be made earthquake resistant by retrofitting techniques. Tsunami is a series of waves caused when a large mass of water is displaced by an undersea earthquake or volcanic eruption. A large part of the sea floor subsides, causing huge waves which travel at a very high speed to the coast. These waves cause great destruction to life and property. When there is a tsunami, people in the affected area should move to higher ground away from the coast. Tsunamis warning systems should be installed in the high risk zones. The family should be made aware of the dangers, risk evacuation routes, etc. So when the disaster strikes, people are not afraid and act immediately. Cyclone. A cyclone is a low pressure center surrounded by high pressure on all sides. It is a center of converging winds. The center of a cyclone is called the eye of a cyclone. The winds move in a cyclic manner with a velocity of more than 100 km per hour. The cyclone moves in a clockwise direction in the northern hemisphere and anti-clockwise direction in the southern hemisphere. Cyclones are usually accompanied by storms followed by heavy rains. Types of cyclones. Cyclones are of two types. Number 1, temperate cyclone. These spread over a large area and are less destructive than a tropical cyclone. The rainfall is lighter but lasts for a longer time. Number 2, tropical cyclone. This occurs mainly in the tropical zone. It occupies a smaller area, but the wind blows at a tremendous speed, causing widespread damage. These cyclones are known by different names in different parts of the world. They are known as hurricanes in North America, typhoons in South China Sea, cyclones in India, and willy-willies in Australia. Effects of cyclones. These cyclones are highly devastating natural phenomenon causing great damage to life and property and crops and disrupting transport, communication lines and water pipelines. Gales, the strong winds that can uproot trees as well as damage the electricity poles, telephone lines, disrupting power and communication are common. Torrential or heavy rains that can lead to flooding in coastal regions. Collapse of buildings, houses with light roofs can be blown off. High tidal waves or storm surges are common in coastal areas, killing many people by drowning. Cyclones in India. In India, cyclones are common along the eastern coastal region. Every year, especially during the months of October and November, cyclones originate in the Bay of Bengal and move to the coastal regions of Odisha, Andhra Pradesh and Tamil Nadu, resulting in heavy rainfall and extensive floods. Cyclone warning. The Indian Meteorological Department issues cyclone warning and is engaged in cyclone tracking in India. The INSAT satellite and area cyclone detection radars are useful in tracking the cyclones. Warning is issued to ports, fisheries, and aviation departments for a cyclone alert of 48 hours and cyclone warning for 24 hours. A special disaster warning system has been developed for dissemination of cyclone warning in local languages through INSAT satellite to designated addresses, remote or isolated places. Warnings are also broadcasted through the radio and television during cyclones. Preparedness. Various steps of preparedness can be formulated before the season to manage the destruction caused by cyclones. Number 1. Before the cyclonic season, the roofs and walls of the buildings and houses should be checked, repaired, and strengthened. In other words, engineered structures should be built. Number 2. Flood management programs have to be planned and implemented. Number 3. Shelter belts along the coastal regions will reduce the force of strong winds and control the floods. Safety tips. Number 1. In case of evacuation, find out the safe shelter and routes to reach there. Number 2. Always keep an emergency kit ready along with the emergency telephone numbers and addresses of people you would like to contact. Number 3. Keep an adequate stock of food grains and water in safe places. Number 4. Keep listening to the radio or TV for the latest information to know the direction and movement of the cyclone and the areas likely to be affected. Number 5. Shut the doors and windows and remain inside the house. Number 6. In case of a severe cyclone storm, move out with your family to the nearest shelter or the area to reach a safer place, preferably to higher ground or away from the coastal region. Floods. The flood is the most common type of natural hazard in India. A flood occurs when the river overflows its banks or rises beyond its normal level or changes its course. There are several causes of floods. Causes: continuous heavy rainfall in an area, improper drainage, blockage in the river channel by sediments, changing course of the river, deforestation, excessive sedimentation of the river bed, collapse of dams. Types. Floods are of different types as follows. Riverine floods. Floods occurring due to overflowing of river banks. Coastal floods. Floods common along the coastal areas during cyclones, tsunami, high tides. Flash floods. Sudden floods which occur due to heavy and incessant melting of snow, cloudburst and bursting of a dam. Urban floods. Floods common in urban areas due to improper drainage system. Floods in India. Floods are common in some parts of India. Many rivers in North India like the Ganga, the Brahmaputra and the Yamuna are prone to floods, and rivers of South India like the Mahanadi, the Godavari, the Kaveri, the Krishna also overflow their banks. Effects. Floods are very destructive, resulting in widespread loss of human life and damage to property. Loss of life can be caused by drowning or outbreak of epidemics. Floods damage the standing crops, thus affecting the food supplies. Floods lead to the contamination of water, extensive soil erosion, and reduced fertility of the soil. Floods result in shortage of food and drinking water. Sometimes floods can be beneficial too. They can increase the fertility of the soil along the flood plain, help in increasing the groundwater supply, form an integral part of wetland habitats, provide water for natural irrigation and for fisheries. Preparedness. If we are prepared to cope up with floods, we can prevent the damage to life and property on a large scale. Before the flood occurs, you should know the nearest safe place and routes to reach there or higher ground in your locality. You should keep an emergency kit ready, which should include the following.
Number 1, first aid material. Number 2, torch and battery. Number 3, radio. Number 4, waterproof bags. Number 5, umbrellas. Number 6, sticks and ropes. Number 7, matchboxes and candles.
Keep listening to the radio or TV broadcast for the latest information and warning. If you need to evacuate, number 1, pack clothes, medicines, essential papers, valuables, etc. in a waterproof bag. Keep the important items of the house on the tables, beds, or higher places. Power and shut the door. Cover the toilet bowl and drains by sandbags to prevent sewage flow. Do not get into water of unknown depth and strong current. During floods, number 1, cover your food and drink. Number 2, use only boiled water. Number 3, spray disinfectants like lime or bleaching powder in the surroundings. Number 4, be careful about snakes as they are common during floods. Number 5, avoid entering flood waters. Drought. Drought is a condition when there is a long period of dryness due to little or no rainfall in a given region. It is a hazard that develops over a period of time. Causes. In India, droughts mainly occur due to failure of monsoons or the irregular monsoons. The main causes of droughts are the uneven distribution of rainfall, environmental degradation, population growth, urbanization, large-scale deforestation. The rainwater is easily washed away into the rivers and seas and not retained by the soil due to absence of vegetation. Lack of moisture in the soil leads to low productivity. Overexploitation and misuse of water in regions of low rainfall causes drought-like situation. Effects. Almost every one of us is affected by droughts. To a farmer, it causes heavy loss of crops, lack of fodder and water to feed the animals. Drought results in low agricultural production with increased prices of food grains. Poor people cannot afford to purchase them and hence they are the worst affected by them. It contributes to many problems to women in rural areas in terms of malnutrition and great stress farmers to earn their livelihood due to lack of alternative employment. This often leads to migration and lack of nutritious food to the children. This leads to malnutrition and makes them vulnerable to diseases. Preparedness, precautions. Number 1. Prevent misuse of land and water and conserve water by various means. Number 2. Build community-based rainwater harvesting structures. Number 3. Increase the forest cover. Number 4. Use alternative crops in drought conditions. Number 5. Introduce alternative means of earning one's livelihood. Number 6. Encourage crops and seed insurance schemes. Number 7. Recycling of water should be encouraged. Method of rainwater harvesting. Rainwater harvesting should be done by various means like rooftop harvesting, recharge of dug wells, construction of underground tankers, etc. Sharing the water by transferring it to the interstate river basins, construction of check dams, and percolation ponds to store rain water. Canals should be lined to minimize the loss of water. Afforestation should be encouraged to check desertification. In ancient times, people practiced different methods, techniques of rainwater harvesting. In India, bamboo drip irrigation, diversion channels called kuls or gulls of western and central Himalayas, johads, and khadans of semi-arid regions of Rajasthan should be encouraged. Watershed management can also be practiced to reduce the impact of droughts. Landslides and avalanches. Landslides and avalanches are geological or natural hazards which are caused by forces which work below the surface of the earth. Landslides. The sudden movement of the rock and the weathered rock material down a mountain slope is called a landslide. The causes of landslides are many. The loose sediments slide down due to rains or the gravitational pull of the earth. Weakening of the foundation of the hills by the rivers, causing the hillsides to collapse. Landslides are also caused due to deforestation as trees hold the soil together. Avalanches. These are large masses of snow and ice which rush down the steep mountain slopes at a great speed. Earthquakes, heavy rainfall, and volcanic eruptions are largely responsible for causing them. Both landslides and avalanches occur mainly in the mountainous regions of the north and southeast India. The hazards can be minimized to some extent by checking deforestation and restricting the construction work to the minimum. Building norms should be strictly followed in construction of hill slopes.